Welcome to Uncorked, Wine, Business, and Life with Bill Green. I'm Jerrold Colton, and as always, we have special guests. But Bill, I know this one's really near and dear to your heart as both a friend and an expert in the area that you are now really venturing into.
He's got a great wine palate, but my story about why I just really appreciate my friendship with Dr. Larry Coia, for being here, Larry, is that the coolest thing about when I bought the farm and made this giant leap of faith to start planting grapes, build a winery, and spend an ungodly amount of money on the project was to meet folks like Larry. And it wasn't, I'm not just saying that. These are folks that are in the business for the same reason, because they love the wine, they love the experience, they love nature. But for me, even without our business relationship, I can call Larry up, or my winemaker can call. He's a partner in Bellevue Winery, a wonderful winery in New Jersey, and they could just share notes and they could just chat. So while we, in some respects, partners, business partners, competitors, and friends, and you don't find that in many businesses, right? Well, thank you very much, Larry, for being here.
My pleasure for being here, and I have to say, the same goes for meeting Bill. To have somebody with his enthusiasm and knowledge of wine recognize that we can do something really nice in South Jersey. That was a big boost for all of us.
It was, I went out on a limb, right? Just like any entrepreneur typically does, they take risks. Well, right out of the gate, when they asked me to be on the board of the the Garden State Wine Growers Association, I had a goal. And my goal was that I understand that New Jersey's number 11 in the country for producing wine. Kentucky's number 10. Not that I have anything against Kentucky, but I'm not getting off this board until we're number 9.
Exactly.
Here's the goal. So we need to jump down 2 steps. So anyway, Larry spent his entire professional career as a oncologist, specializing in the radiology and
radiation oncology.
Radiation oncology, because
And Temple trained, we have to.
And Temple University, Philadelphia trained. And Larry, talk about the early years. I know you grew up in Vineland, a family farm, and you go away to college, and how did all this happen? We'll get to the wine.
Yeah, I have a winding path to eventually getting into wine, but I've always enjoyed everything I've been involved with career-wise. And my first career was to be physics. I really liked physics, and I studied physics at my undergraduate college. I spent a year in Switzerland where I studied physics at one of their famous places, Swiss Federal Institute in Zurich. I had a scholarship to Bryn Mawr College, to their Department of Physics, but at that point, there weren't a lot of employment opportunities for physicists. And some of my best friends in college, really bright guys, were going into medicine. I didn't think that was necessarily the type of science I wanted to be in, but I decided, let me find out a little bit about it. So when I did my graduate work in physics, I also took some courses so I can get into medical school, because they require a full year of organic chemistry, and I only had half a year, for instance. And I got into Temple Medical School and enjoyed it there, and spent some great time with radiation physicists and radiation biologists. So that's basic science, and was able to do research with them. So I did the whole Philadelphia scene, and then I did Jefferson residency, and then I did Penn faculty for 10 years along with Fox Chase. And rose through the ranks and wrote a lot, and became pretty damn well known in the field of radiation oncology. I was going on to be in academics, but I decided to look at private practice opportunities. And that's when I was offered a position to run some of the facilities in the St. Barnabas healthcare system back in the mid-1990s. And I did that for 15 years, recruiting people from terrific places like Sloan Kettering and Fox Chase and University of Pennsylvania. And it's still being run. Our group is called East Coast Radiation Oncology. But I had in the back of my mind that after 30 or 35 years, I wanted to do something else. I did have a farming background. I never wanted to be a farmer, but I was intrigued by grapes and wine, and the fact that I started in medical school planting a little bit of grapes. I planted about 100 vines. And then, after a few years, I tasted it, and I was only in my late 20s or early 30s.
And where were you planting these?
Planting these in Vineland, New Jersey, where I grew up. My grandparents grew grapes, but they were mostly, except my one grandfather, they had been deceased. So I really didn't get exposure to that generation who was really interested. My parents didn't drink, or just occasionally. But I started to recognize that, hey, this tastes what I think it's supposed to taste like. And it was Cabernet Sauvignon that I was growing, which I was one of the pioneers in, at least in New Jersey, of growing vinifera, and so I liked that idea, and eventually retired from medicine around 2013, and have been growing grapes ever since. And we now have a 14-acre vineyard, and we bought into Bellevue Winery a couple years ago, and that's my story.
It's really a great story, and I want to get to back to the medical part, but Larry and his wife Barbara had dinner with Amy and I the other night, and he brought a bottle of wine with one of the grapes that were made, grown on the, and he tells us the story. He goes to Italy, he finds this really interesting grape that kind of has no name, and he plants some, just kind of like, because that's what you do. And, and with no market for it, no nothing, it's kind of that entrepreneurial risk that we all talk about. And he comes out to be this fabulous wine. He trademarks the name San Marco, so you're a really creative guy. And we drink it the other night, and I'm like, wow, Larry, Saddle Hill needs to acquire some of these grapes. Because, man, that thing punched me right in the face, and I just love that big, bold fruit, especially from Italy, right? It's got that unique flavor.
We had some grants from the Outer Coastal Plain Vineyard Association to look at our climate and to define it very carefully, and then see what other countries might have some similarities. There were two that really stood out. One was Bordeaux, which has very similar soils, gravelly loam, similar summers, although obviously we have more humidity and rain in our summer and it's a little colder in the winter. But then in the Trentino Alto Adige, in the northeastern part of Italy. So in 2012, I traveled to Verona to study with Italian, and I identified a researcher at their institute, the Foundation Edmund Mock, just north of that. Met with him. We discussed what varieties he had been developing. He's a geneticist, more than anything, I would say. And he had developed several crosses that hadn't really found widespread use in Italy yet. And just as you said, there were numbers. This is still called Ecoiasma Uno, which is just a number. The Italians are using it experimentally still. Even Antinori is using it. But we brought it. It wasn't easy. We had to take it through California, through quarantine. Eventually got it released. Rutgers helped us with that. It turns out it is a little more resistant to downy, powdery mildew. Botrytis, definitely more resistant to botrytis. And it's producing a damn good wine. It's a more full-bodied than many of the ones we have in this. Black as ink, and pretty good alcohol levels.
Yeah, it's really good. So speaking of that, we want to, again, right after this, I promise, we're going to get back to this medical part of it. But with the wine in front of you, Larry, with the stem tag around it, is a wine. And just to backtrack a little bit, when I first bought the farm and named it Saddle Hill, started planting grapes in 2021 with an eye on opening in early 24, I knew I needed to have sources of grapes, that I wasn't going to make it myself. And so Larry and I have a partnership where I lease a piece of his vineyard, and that Saddle Hill is going to take those grapes, rain, shine, whatever, regardless of the quantity or whatever the condition is, we have those grapes. And we would say that the grapes that we get from Coia Vineyard are the best grapes in New Jersey. And this wine that we're about to taste has Regent, which I had never heard of, Blaufränkisch, which I learned about, and Cabernet Franc. So 3 of the 5 grapes are from Larry's vineyard. So let's take a taste. And I named it after my sister who passes. Little commercial for Sadaho wine. Larry?
Well,
Sure,
I get.
we can edit this out if it doesn't come out
I
good.
get
No, just kidding.
the Blaufränkisch, I think, contributes a lot to the cherry flavor and to the acidity. Regent is one of the offsprings of Chambourcin that brings in some of the earthiness, and the Cabernet Franc sort of rounds it out. I mean, my full tongue is stimulated with this. It's
Right.
delicious. It's really
But
good.
wouldn't they just say, like, you have this vineyard and it's 14 acres, which is not the largest vineyard. It's not the smallest either. But why would you take up space growing something like Regent that doesn't have a market?
Well, that one I don't grow, although we grow it at Bellevue, so I do
That's
grow
all.
it.
Okay, so we got it through that system.
Blaufränkisch, it is an Austrian grape, so it's not very far. It actually, the Burgenland in Austria is not that far from the Trentino Alto Adige region, so there's some similarities there. And I had tasted that when traveling to Austria. Thought it would be a great grape. And Joe Fiola, who at that time was at Rutgers, said, "Hey, this is a grape that might do really well in our area."
Interesting.
And so that's why I tried that. Cabernet Franc is probably the best vinifera we can grow.
In New Jersey.
In New Jersey.
That's why we have 10 acres of it.
Yeah, it's really a terrific variety.
So Larry, January 3rd, 2025, the Surgeon General came out with a statement asking all alcohol producers, including wineries, obviously, to label on their bottle warning cancer risk warnings. You know, obviously, in my opinion, pretty irresponsible. You not only have the entire liquor industry worldwide, you have hospitality, and even without putting those are all economic, right? But how about the social aspect and what that would mean if, you know, people really stop drinking alcohol? With all the bad things you put in your, I mean, we just learned the FDA killed red dye 3, thank God, right? That, you know, I was drinking Gatorade and getting cancer. But, Larry, this is why, you know, the fact that you are an oncologist and you're an expert in wine, you really would love to hear your thoughts on this and what this really means to all of us.
I think it is a mistake. A Surgeon General can say whatever he wishes, but usually it's based on really, really solid science. And I don't feel that this is absolutism, where it's either yes or no. It causes cancer. Well, sunlight causes cancer. Driving in your car can cause death. I mean, there are certain things. Yeah, it was important to recognize that cigarettes can cause cancer. It's one of the greatest causes for death in the United States is smoking cigarettes. And as a physician, I treated patients obviously with cancer, and most of them were in terms of, you know, things that we could do to prevent it. Cigarettes were the major cause. But to try to equate those two, I think is what's going to happen when people see alcohol causes cancer on a label. They're going to say, "Well, that's just like cigarettes. I'm not going to."
The Surgeon General warning specifically.
Yeah, exactly.
For 50 years.
And you know, current guidelines are really well-based science. 1 drink for women and 2 for men, and that's an interpolation of a lot of data. And it's really not specific enough. We've got a lot more research to say, you know, is that 1 drink average? I mean, we know you can't do 5 drinks one day and then 1 the next day, and it turns out to be, you know, 1 drink a day or an average. Right. But I think, I really think it's a major deception to say that. And as you point out the social aspect as well. There's so many great people who have quotes, a Hemingway, that it's the greatest thing of civilization is wine. It really helps us. And it's funny because wasn't it the Surgeon General that said one of the major crises in America is our problems with loneliness and social isolation? Well, wine is a lubricant for that. I mean, obviously it's bad at high quantities, but I have a slide that they would probably object to now because it's based on data that suggests that alcohol significantly decreases all-cause mortality if you're doing just 1 or 2 drinks. Maybe not so much now. It does decrease heart attacks and stroke, and overall mortality is decreased with small amounts. 1 drink for women, 2 drinks for men. But if you look at the same overall risk of death with cigarettes versus alcohol consumption, 1 to 5 cigarettes per day is way off the line for alcohol consumption. You would have to drink over 5 drinks a day to cause the same thing. The 1 to 5, it's like a 50% risk of increase in dying with
Larry,
cigarettes.
why do you think the Surgeon General is not coming out with a warning on Gatorade and all this crap? That's like, I don't get it.
It should be on Gatorade, should be on Sunlight. I mean,
but think about that. And I've been drinking wine for 30 years, and I've been drinking wine vigorously for 30 years. And I would say I probably breached the 2 glass a day goal. And there are days that I only drink 2. But most of the time, I would say my wife and I will have dinner and there's 5 glasses of wine in the bottle. And I probably say we split it, but I'm probably a tad more.
You're 3 glasses and she's 2.
I think it's something like that. But if you do drink 3 versus 1, let's talk about what is the cancer risk if you don't drink at all versus if you do drink those 2 a day.
Okay. Overall risk of cancer for men goes up with 2 drinks a day about 3%. Okay. From none to. For women, it's supposed to be 5%. Three of those 5% being breast cancer. However, you're also not looking at the fact that it's helpful in reducing strokes and heart attacks and other things. So that the National Academy, a report that was released in December from the National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine actually showed an overall decrease in mortality with alcohol consumption. So yes, it does cause a little bit, and that's the more recent finding. This is why people were saying it's not good for you. Yes, there's going to be one more. No, let's see. If the woman is just drinking two drinks, it's maybe 2 more or 1.5 more causes of breast, 1.5 more cases of breast cancer. So 1.5 per 100 women that are drinking. Maybe. Even that evidence is so-so. But that's relatively new. When I was treating cancer, I was actually a specialist in cancers of the oral cavity, or we call it head and neck, larynx, the esophagus. We knew that those were caused by usually just heavy smoking, but also increased by alcohol consumption too. But I never saw anybody that was just drinking 1 or 2 drinks a day without cigarette smoking come in with a cancer of the. It can happen. You'd have to see 1,000 people, but it's just not the major causes of cancer. Now it says, and this is something that wasn't known before, that even breast cancer can be increased, risk of it can be increased with low amounts of alcohol consumption, and colon and rectal cancer. Not really that well known. Remember, there are also positive benefits. The risks are very low for those cancers, and we can cure those cancers too. I don't want to belittle things, right. But breast cancers, I know I cured more than 50% of breast cancer, probably 90%. Esophageal cancer, I'd have to say, one of my greatest contributions as a radiation oncologist was bringing the cure rate from 0% to 20%. It's not great, but we combined chemotherapy and radiation, and we were doing as well or better than surgery for that. Wow. So yeah, that was an important thing for me.
I mean, Dr. Coia, it's fascinating to hear you speak because you even approached winemaking from a scientific level very much.
I tried to.
But I mean, obviously that's your background, your interest, where your brain works, and you are really the great expert for this and discuss it. And as 2 guys who have really taken their passion and thrown it into wine, I hope you're able to get a voice to be heard to really counteract this, what sounds like false information.
Yes, and the real reason I'm very upset about it is because we are a fledgling industry in New Jersey, the winery. And I mean, we've been around a long time, but in terms of really developing wonderful wines, 20 years at most. And the word is just starting to get out there. And this is a bad time for people to drink less wine because the few small wineries and vineyards that we have are not going to be able to sell their product if, it disturbs me because that was my thrust in this whole thing wasn't to make a lot of money in grape growing or winemaking, but to show that this is an alternative. This is going to keep some of New Jersey at least green. Most of New Jersey is, you know what it's like. You're right next to Cherry Hill, which is a beautiful town, but it used to be cherry trees and stuff like that.
And Bill, keeping New Jersey green is now green in the wine business, and a good chance to maybe try another one. And then I really want to talk about what both of you guys see for the future of New Jersey wines and are doing to try to help it.
Yeah. So this next wine, Larry, the one without the tag on it, is I didn't bring the bottle over. That was another bottle. Anyway, this is 2009.
It's going to arrive like magic.
Oh, there we go. Wow, look at
Tyler?
that. Thank you. This is an amazing wine. Probably the most expensive wine in the United States, if you can get it. And it's all Cabernet Sauvignon.
And again, what is it?
Screaming Eagle. And there's probably some pissed off viewers out there sitting there saying, these two wine guys from New Jersey are drinking their wine and they're comparing it to Screaming Eagle. Yes, we are. Come and get us.
Your thoughts, Larry?
Well, it's, frankly, I had never had it before. I had certainly heard about it. I generally don't buy wines that are over $100 a bottle. It is extremely intense, beautiful, almost sweetness. I'm sure there's no residual sugar, but it just bursts with flavor. Bill, I don't think we can make Cabernet Sauvignon like this, but that doesn't mean not as good. We can make some fantastic Cabernet Sauvignon that's much more like Bordeaux than it is like this.
Right. So what I tell people, because they know I've been collecting wine for 30 years, and when I catch up with people, they go, how's your New Jersey winery going? And I said, look, let's say this. The large majority of the wine market is under $30 a bottle, right? The consumption. New Jersey, if you go into the liquor store and you buy a $30 bottle of New Jersey wine, you buy a $30 bottle of Napa wine, they're going to be on par. We just can't make a $100 bottle, or yet. With folks like you, Larry, and all the excitement that's going around the New Jersey wine, I think we have a great shot. Now, this bottle, the 2022 that just, I don't think I got it yet, but I had to commit to it, or 21, I forget what it was. It's $1,200. And I could turn it around tomorrow and put it on auction and get $3,000. I don't know, like I'm a collector, I'm not a seller. And, but like, that's ridiculous. I mean, it really is ridiculous, but you can't buy it.
One of the things we don't have a problem with, we can get sufficient alcohol, 12%, 13%, maybe some years 14%. This is 14.8. I checked it.
Yeah.
We don't have our grapes won't get. I mean, they're raisins at that point. And
Bill, you talked about his grape.
He really has a beautiful vineyard. And I think there's something, Larry has a partner in Bellevue Winery, Orly Ashenfelter, who's just an amazing friend as well, and probably the head economist for wine in the country. He's a Princeton professor. And we have, most of the wine we get from him, or grapes we get from
Cab Sauvignon,
is Cab Sauv, but there's something about the soil going on in Vineland that really is just just surpasses.
Well, it is called Vineland for a reason.
Yeah. and you know,
What's
Larry,
the difference, though? What's the difference?
we don't know.
You know, it is the name of most of the soil in our region is called sassafras sandy loam. It's not uncommon. They even have it in Maryland. I think it might even be the state soil in Maryland. But ours has a lot of gravel in it, so it drains really well. And I think that makes a difference.
And your family, what was your family, growing up as a kid, what was your family farming?
From what I understand, my grandparents were doing peaches and apples and fruits. My father's generation would be doing vegetables, peppers, tomatoes. Current generation, similarly, mostly tomatoes.
And how many acres does the Coia family have in Vineland?
200-300, something like that.
Okay.
Not
So
a whole
you're-
lot, but for vegetable farming, that's probably average.
So
in
for
New Jersey.
14, that's just like a little throw-in that you added to the Coia family.
Yeah. Well, now with Bellevue Winery, we have, Bellevue has 50 acres of
Yeah,
grapes.
Bellevue.
And Jim is a tremendous farmer. He grows grapes equally well and is a great vegetable farmer.
And Jim was, matter of fact, when I was going to buy the farm, I didn't know anybody. Somebody said, you got to call this guy Jim Queller at Bellevue. I'm like, okay, I'm going to just cold call this guy. And I mean, this guy just couldn't have been nicer. Mm-hmm. And he introduced me to Vine Tech, who manages our vineyard. And he introduced us to you and Orly. And it was just like, and then Amy and I go down to Bellevue and sit there and say, this is cool. We're going to do this thing. So this is great. This is really great. So Larry, where's New Jersey going? Let's put aside the nasty Surgeon General that's trying to hack us all, but let's talk about where New Jersey wines are going.
Well, I can tell you where I hope it goes, and I think it's going to go. We have a little over 9 million people. I just read that New Jersey was one of the highest increase in population over the past year, which I was surprised at. Virginia has 8 million people. Virginia has 200 wineries. We have 50. So my guess is that we should be able to grow. We have as good or better conditions than Virginia. And we've got Philadelphia to our west and New York to our northeast and big population in the northern part of the state. I can't see it going anywhere but up as long as people remain open-minded. Every article, many of the articles that you read, have to start with some punchline that refers to the Sopranos or some negative thing about New Jersey. So let them do that, but also expose what's really going on. We're making some great wine.
So let's talk about this. Let's call a spade a spade. We think Saddlehull's doing a nice job. Yes. We have a fantastic winemaker. Your winery, Bellevue, does a great job, and there's a ton that do a great job. And Heritage and Sharrett and Almathea and the outer coastal plain, the AVA outer coastal plain. But some of the New Jersey wineries, will going to remain nameless here, they just putting grapes in a vat and maybe they'll throw it in barrels, maybe they won't. And there's not a quality consciousness. And it's that's going to pull us down. Right?
I totally agree. And I think there's two reasons for that. One is a longstanding history of bringing in grapes from California for home winemaking, et cetera. But now people are doing it even, just because they might even be able to buy them cheaper and ship them across the state to add to their wine, either as a blend or as a full thing. So that's one aspect. The other one is that there is a clientele that still wants sweet wine. I have to say that Bellevue, we've got, over 20 wines on the list, and there's a number of them that are sweet wines because people still want our homestead. It's made from, and it's a delicious wine, but it's a different flavor than a vinifera-based wine. So those are the two things that can hold us back. We, at our winery, and this is Jim Corella's philosophy, we want to serve the public, our local public. Yes, we want to make really great wine and eventually sell a $100 bottle of wine, but we think we could do both. We've got enough acres, we've got a talented winemaker, we've got a good team. We don't want to abandon our local clientele either. And if they want some stuff that's got a history from growing for 100 years, we can still do that.
Well, the blueberry wine is pretty good.
That's true.
We are the blueberry. Hamilton's the blueberry capital of the
Very
United
good point.
States. So we do have some good. Look, when I first got into this, just almost 4 years ago, when I had never tasted blueberry wine, no fruit wine, and like you can make an argument, it's an acquired taste. Maybe that's all you had. Look, I will say though, what are you like 14, 15 when you sneak around and you get some wine, right? And it was Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill. So I can't say I never drank.
I usually tell people that say, "Oh no, I don't like dry wine," that when you get older, you'll like it. And they might be 70 years old, and I just don't like it.
It's interesting. We ran out. This was my first year, so we were just kind of guessing on what was going to sell and what should we acquire and what should we grow and what should we bottle. And we ran out of sweet wine, and it was probably because Bill Green does not like sweet wine. Mm-hmm. So when I sat with my winemaker to do the portfolio planning, he'd say, how many cases you want to go? 100 cases of that, 150, 200 cases of that. And, 3 months later, those cases are gone. Yeah. And we're getting, as we speak right now, we have the only sweet wine we have left, because we're going to start bottling in another month or so, is our port style wine.
Okay.
We're getting bad reviews. Well, don't go to Saddle Hill if you don't like dry wine, because that's all they have.
That's what you run into.
And we run into that.
What is your demographic more for the sweet wines? Is younger?
Yes, there are a lot of younger people that do. And then you got the really older, like me, older generations who, when they grew up, they might have had, Manischewitz or Catawba or whatever in the kitchen,
Was that really a thing outside of holidays?
Not so much. You're right. It was.
I don't know, man. Well, look, there are Concord Grape, which is what Manischewitz is.
Yeah.
This is there are wineries in New Jersey that grow Concord grapes.
And originally, Welch's was there, as he's pointed out in the past.
That's absolutely right. Welch's got their start in Vineland, New Jersey, pasteurizing Concord grape juice.
Right. So you can grow as a winery anywhere in the country. You can grow Concord grapes, and you can make a bottle of wine probably for about $3.50, $4.
I'm just bristling at the thought of what
you could sell that wine. It could retail for $8.99, $10, and people are just going to. I'm drinking wine.
Yep.
Bill, you raised an interesting point, and before we close, I really wanted to touch on this. How amongst the many things you are, which really at its heart is friends, but you're competitors too. How competitive are the different wineries in New Jersey? Because it seems to me like you're kind of all in this together.
We are. And what winery owner who's starting a podcast, nothing to do with his real owner, would have one of his competitors on and promote his wine?
Because I think it's benefit of everybody
we are. Like, here's where we're going to compete. The person that is going to come to Saddle Hill, whether they're in the Philly area or Cherry Hill, is probably not they're going to, real winery goers want to try them all.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we don't really consider that part competition. The competition is selling into retail. Because you go into some of these large liquor stores and they have a wall of New Jersey wines. So here Bill Green walks in recently, and this happened, and say, hey, Harry, would you carry my wine? Well, what do you have? I said, I got New Jersey wine. Walks me over to the wall. He says, I don't need another New Jersey wine. So that's the competitive piece. Mm-hmm. So then I call and I say, well, Harry, my wine's way better than Bellevue. No, I'm just kidding. No, look, that's it. But you know what? If a competitor is blowing through the roof and doing really well, it is good for us. It really is. I hope Bellevue sells 25,000 cases a year, because guess what? It's gonna trickle down to Saddle Hill.
Let's spread the word to everybody about New Jersey.
Yeah, it's really great.
It would be helpful if we would have our wines in areas that aren't designated New Jersey wine too. We do Cabernet Franc as good as anybody in the world. Why not put us with the other Cabernet Franc?
Well, we got excited this summer. My winemaker said, we really have a lot of rosé that wasn't bottled yet. And we created this magnificent bottle, a painted bottle. And we're a horse farm, so we put a horse on it. And we're on White Horse Road, so we put a white horse on it. And we have it in, matter of fact, the 23 stores that we are selling today, most of them put our painted bottle wine with not in the New Jersey section. So, whether it's a pretty bottle, we still have to have great juice, right? So that's the competitive. Larry, can't thank you enough. From traveling all the way from West Palm Beach to go to Arizona, to come drink some fantastic wine with us and share your story, and especially your concern about the untimely statement by the Surgeon General.
Where does that stand right now?
I don't know if he's going to be allowed to do that. I think he needs permission. And the other thing is that the new dietary guidelines are supposed to come out, and I'm hoping that they will say the same and base them on the National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine, rather than on some of the things that maybe the new the old Surgeon General wants to do. So,
great. Larry, we thank you, and we will have you back, and because we want to keep doing this, and we want to see where that goes with the Surgeon General, as well as where the future of New Jersey wines continues to go, with you two guys really at the forefront of it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Cheers.
On behalf of Bill Green, we appreciate Dr. Larry Coia coming on. We'll see you again next time. I'm Jerrold Colton on Uncorked.